Now let's move to the very important topic, one of favorite interviewers question. Let's say I have defined a variable I and I have defined it to, let's say, 11, and then I made a function named as increment and passed I in it and then see out I. I hope everyone is clear with what endl is. ENDL, and this particular increment function, ENDL, stands for end line. After this line it will always start from the new line. Basically, to get new line after every printing, you can use ENDL in your cout statement. Return works with void as well, because here we are not returning anything. Even if we remove return from this statement, it will still work. If we put it, it will still work. Coming back to the point, the answer of this particular code will be 11. Let me tell you the reason. Because we are neither passing it by reference nor passing it by pointer. We are basically passing, let me just draw, that would be help. Let's say we have made a variable I, so it basically is stored in a particular memory block. We have stored value 11 in it, and let's say the memory address is 1 in it. Basically 1 is not a memory address, but in our case we are considering let it's 1. Now we pass this particular value as an argument or as a actual argument, and here this particular function accepted this as a formal parameter. Now what this is doing, it will not be having any access to this particular memory. It will make its own memory. It will use its own memory, let's say 2, which will be having an address 2, and it will store the value 11 in here. So now when it's doing a plus plus, when this is happening, this 11 is getting changed to 12. Will it make any change to this 11? No. So now when I printing this particular I, 11 is getting printed. So let's see what's happening here. When I declared a variable, it took a space, let's say addressed as 1, and stored a value 11 in it. Now this ampersand I means address of I. The address of I is this 1. So what we did in here, we passed the address of I. Let me just give a brief for those who were not having a lot of idea. So basically pointers are special variables. Pointer variable, let's say PV, are the special variables who store the address of another variable, and we denote them with int star and the name of the variable. That's how we define a pointer variable. These have the ability to store the address of another variable. So when we pass address of I as an argument and we had a pointer variable here, what we exactly did, we passed 1 to this pointer variable, and now this pointer variable is holding an address that is equal to 1. So moving ahead, so when A is having the address of this memory block, now what this star A meant, basically star A will dereference. The term dereference stands for the process in which we try to access the value which is stored in that particular address which this pointer variable is storing. We dereferenced. On dereferencing, what we got 11, and we incremented it. On incremented, the value which we incremented was stored in this address. It incremented to 12, and when we print it, now it will show 12. So when we declared a variable, again the same thing, it occupied a memory block and wrote 11 in it. The address of this memory block is 1. Now we passed I as an argument, but here when I received I, we are receiving it by reference. When we receive anything by reference, what we are actually doing, we are basically naming the same block again with the different name. Suppose before the name of this particular block was I in this main function, but when we pass this I as a reference in another function, now this same memory block is named as A in another function. So whenever we are changing in A or making any manipulation in A in another function, that is here, we are actually making the changes in this value itself, or the value present in this memory block itself. I hope it makes sense. So now let's try to understand it. Here what we did, when we declared this j without any ampersand beside it, we set the compiler to assign him a new address or new memory block where he will store the exact same value I is having. And when I did increment operator with j, it incremented the value which is stored in the memory block which j was allotted, not in the memory block which I was allotted, because we are not saying compiler to give them the same memory. When we set the compiler not to give them the same memory block, so whatever I am doing in j will not affect I, whatever I'll do in I will not affect j, correct? Because both are having different addresses or different places where the memory, where their values are stored. Now when I give instructions to the compiler that hey, I do not want to give j a different memory block, I want to give him the same memory block that I is having. I was declared, we gave him a memory, stored a value, let's say memory block was 1, Now, when this statement will get executed, the compiler will say, okay, I'll assign J same memory which I was given. Now, if I increment the J, what will get affected? This particular J increment operator will be happening over this particular 11. After incrementing this particular J, I am printing I will print 12, not 11. And the reason is now we are just making changes in the same memory block who is having two different names. One is his main name or another might be his nickname. That totally depends on the concept how you want to remember it. When we pass this I in this particular increment function and we received it in here in a value which the compiler will declared as a reference. Now I hope you are understanding by reference what I mean. This is one of the favorite interviewers question when it comes to theory. Like even you can expect this in any big company. Let's say you are interviewing with any big company and you generally have time of 1 hour in TRs, technical rounds, and you are supposed to do two questions. After doing those two questions, if time is left, he generally start asking question on theoretical part. And when it comes to the theoretical part, this is one of the very favorite interviewers topic. And if you are able to explain this to the interviewer, na, trust me, he's gonna get impressed. And try to explain it with a real life example